Unit 5, Task 3.3.
What can be done to reduce the dangers of global warming? Well, it will obviously help if we cut down on the amount of carbon dioxide going into the atmosphere. It also makes sense for a lot more trees to be planted. Now, both of these things are possible to do and will actually help national economies. One of the main ways a lot of the extra carbon dioxide gets into the atmosphere is by burning fossil fuels, like coal and so on. But a lot of this energy is actually wasted. Some of the fuel isn't burned properly. Some of the heat produced is lost. Some of the energy is used wastefully by lights being left on unnecessarily and so on. If we insulated and managed buildings properly, if we stopped using cars so much and had more efficient public transport systems instead, if the heat that is wasted in power stations was used to heat greenhouses and homes, if we burned coal so that we extracted more energy from it, if nations did all these things, they would not only cut down a great deal on the amount of carbon dioxide they produce, they would also save huge sums of money. Tree planting has other benefits as well. About 25% of the carbon dioxide produced by people comes from clearing and burning forests. However, growing trees soak up carbon dioxide. If we stopped destroying forests and started to plant new ones, the trees would help absorb greenhouse gases. But trees are also very useful as sources of building materials, fibers, and medicines. They also hold soil in place, shelter wildlife, and increase rainfall. In other words, they not only help to reduce the greenhouse effect, they also make sound economic sense. However, I should point out that in reality the picture is more complicated than this, of course. The way we use energy is not shared out on an equal basis throughout the world. The rich nations use about 70% of it, while the developing nations use the other 30%. This means that the greenhouse effect, that is, the warming up of the atmosphere because of too much carbon dioxide, is a problem created by the rich nations. They now have to try to persuade the developing countries not to start increasing their use of energy. This will be difficult politically, because developing countries cannot raise the living standards of their people without using more energy. For example, if China carries out its plans to use more coal in the next 35 years, it will increase by about 50% the amount of carbon dioxide being released into the atmosphere at the moment. There is another political problem. The countries of South America, Africa, and Southeast Asia are being asked to protect their rainforests. But the countries that are asking them to do so are the rich ones, which cut down almost all their own wild forests centuries ago. Something else we also need to remember is that the world's population is not standing still. In 1800, there were 1 billion people on Earth. By 1940, the total was 2.5 billion. Now, there are more than 5 billion. Before the end of the 1990s, there will be 6 billion. Every year, there are another 92 million people in the world. They will need food, housing, transport, communications, education, hospitals, and jobs. All these things require energy. They will need land, and this will mean more cutting down of more trees. A real solution to the problem of global warming is therefore very difficult and complex. It requires the nations of the world to cooperate together in a way they haven't ever done so far. But the question they need to consider is no longer what is good for individual nations, but what is good for our planet as a whole.